Hello, French learners, and welcome to KJ's French Sense, the channel where we help you make French make sense. In this longer version, we're going to go a little bit deeper on a topic that we discussed last time. Okay, today we're going to talk about the difference between what you know and how you express it, and how we can bridge that gap. So, one thing that we have to consider is that everyone talks about immersion, but really, what does that mean? I think it means in creating a background ambiance for learning the language. Now, remember, I talked about this in the video on KJ's French Sense, and I think it was called Four Fluency Tips, but you may want to look there to get the gist of the first part of this presentation, but I'll give you a brief rundown of what we were talking about here. All right, so remember, we actually drop everything, get on a flight and go to Paris to immerse ourselves in the language? I don't know about you, but I cannot do that right now. So what is the better option? Or the option that we can live with right now? We'll relax because you can bring French to you, to yourself, that ambiance. You can immerse yourself in French by putting some background French ambiance on while you're doing some tasks, which was what we covered in the last video. But now we're going to go a little bit deeper. Remember, we were talking about just relaxing, maybe listening to some music, and recognizing that you can learn while you're not actively trying to, get every single syllable and meaning down pat. But how do you do this? Well, remember that you're only going to dedicate roughly about 30 minutes a day, once or twice, maybe 3 times a week, to just some passive learning by giving yourself some background ambiance to listen to whilst you do your tasks. You may also want to consider doing the following. Listen, well, basically, listen to figure out how to speak. You're going to have to speak in order to get that muscle going. Remember that you already know how to produce comprehensible language. You know how to do that. But that muscle, your new French muscle, needs to be activated. How can we do that? Well, there's a couple of things that you might want to try. You can audio blog, and I know that sounds weird, but it is a thing and you can do it. The best way to do it to start out would be to say 3 things about something that you did today. Aujourd'hui, j'ai fait une randonnée avec mon frère. J'ai vu un cerf. Maintenant, je suis complètement épuisé. Okay, or maybe you might want to try the minute you wake up. Je vais m'habiller. Je vais manger quelque chose. Et je vais sortir. 3 sentences a day can help you get that speaking muscle activated. You might also want to try treating yourself to a program that you enjoy. Maybe it's a cooking show, or maybe it's just something silly that you see online. The important thing is to listen with a purpose, but not the purpose that you would think. You're listening for how did they say that? What are the words that they chose? Because that's going to help you figure out how to use the language in everyday situations. So when real life hits, you'll have the vocabulary and the sentence structure to say, Attends, où est mon décapsuleur? Remember that verbs activate language. Now, something that a lot of apps do not teach you is that you can learn as many vocabulary words as you want. All these nouns are great and they increase your vocabulary, but they cannot make the language active. In order to activate the language, you need verbs. So you need se brosser in order to say elle se brosse les cheveux. She brushes her hair. Okay, so think about it like a toolbox. The more verbs that you have in your toolbox, the more ways that you will have to say something. You'll have a diversity of ways that you can express yourself. Okay, so let's recap. First, you'll need to make a plan. Do three things with French in the background. Create an ambiance for yourself. Treat yourself to a French program, something that you enjoy watching that just happens to be in French, but something that you can basically understand by just looking at the pictures. Talk about three things that happen during the day. Pick 3 or 4 verbs to focus on for the week. Now, if you stick with me on these videos, I'm going to give you more useful information towards the end. So here's today's quick tip. Now, you might say, hold up, KJ, how am I supposed to find a French program on YouTube? Well, here's a tip I didn't know before I started actually looking for programs myself for my French class. Whatever you type in the search bar for YouTube in French will return French programming in French. So I did a little contemporary research like I would do for all my classes, and I found this channel for learning how to draw. I liked it because the instructor spoke very slowly, gave vocabulary, and the instruction was very clear. I also learned that if you type in the word apprendre and then pick the subject that you want to know about, you'll find lots of videos in French. So if you want to learn about cooking or music theory or even how to sew, it's much easier to find a video that suits your ability. Now, my students often ask, but wait, you said we're not supposed to be learning something, we're supposed to be having fun. My answer to that is it's much easier to learn French if you already know something about the topic that you're watching. Sometimes cartoons can be over your head. So pick something you're interested in already or something that you know a little bit about and want to learn more. It's easier to pick up the French watching something that you're already familiar with. Another question I get all the time is, how long is this going to take, KJ? And I honestly have to tell you, it depends on how consistently you give yourself that ambiance. It's that French background. It's the passive learning that gives you that extra boost to find the words that you need to express yourself. It's also going to require some practice. So, finding a study buddy is always a good thing. Getting it together with people who are practicing French or even some native speakers who have some patience and some time on their hands is always a good way to learn. The important thing is you deserve the time. So be patient and be confident that even when you're relaxing or doing chores around the house or going for a walk or maybe even a bike ride, you can still be acquiring French through exposure. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that on KJ Sur Scène, I'm starting a series of stories. They will be geared to level 1A, and they'll be more like podcasts and not so much videos. Look for them on the KJ Sur Scène playlist on my channel, Learn French with KJ. So remember, if you've learned anything from this video, or if you believe like I do that the best way to really get to know someone is to speak to them in their own language, please click like and subscribe so that we can reach more people who are learning French. Until the next time, this is KJ signing out.